There he is. There she is. Wow, look at that nice background. I might have to do something with mine.
Yeah, I do client seminars twice a month, so I figured they should see something other than my living room.
There we go. How are you doing?
Good.
Good.
Do you have a class this weekend or a module?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lab 1 this
Okay.
weekend and then lab 2 next weekend. Lab 1's only 3 people this weekend, which is good for them.
Yeah.
And we got one person who signed up in December last year who knew she was going to take her time. We have another person who signed up 10 days ago and got through all the online. Like, oh, I'm
Jeez.
afraid to teach to you.
Yeah.
You're too smart.
Right.
Anyway, well, thank you for taking a little bit of time.
Yeah, sure.
So we're doing a couple little things. The webinar on Wednesday is I've been putting it out there to not just animal chiropractors but to veterinarians and chiropractors also, so that they can get a little taste of, the things we talk about practice building in animal chiropractic. And anyway, so it follows kind of a certain model. And I thought, well, who could I ask to talk a little bit about what's happened to your practice because of animal chiropractic and how that's moved you through. So I thought, well, there's Dr. Diab because she's done really well. And it would also give you an opportunity to like put a little plug in for the um, associate that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, tell me a little bit about that job. You want them to be full-time, part-time?
Yeah, so
take over.
Right now I'm advertising part-time. That definitely can change. Just depending on what their goals are, really. I know most of the veterinary field right now is women, and women seem to really, value being able to be at home a little bit more, or if they don't have kids, to travel or whatever. So I don't want to pigeonhole it to only full time. But if somebody wanted to come in, and because we only see patients 12 to 14 hours a week right now, and that's about as much as I want to do. But if somebody wanted to come in and fill in those gaps so that we were open, 40, 50 hours a week or whatever, then we would make that happen. We have the space to be able to do that. So, kind of, it just would depend on what that person would want. And if there's somebody that wasn't currently certified in chiropractic, or, wasn't trained in muscle testing, part-time would give them the space to go through that part too, to get trained and go through A.C.E.S, or, get trained by me with muscle testing or whatever, and not feel like they're also trying to have to hold up a full-time job. So it's pretty flexible. The ultimate goal is to have a freestanding clinic that's open kind of normal business hours. So whether that means one person who's really motivated wants to come in and do that, or they come in part-time and then we hire another doctor later on that's part-time, and we're just a cohort of part-time, doctors, then that's fine too. The goal would never be to extend hours beyond what the doctors wanted to work or were able to work,
Nice.
So, yeah.
that's a really nice model. That's, it's refreshing because it's not what everybody else is offering, for sure.
Yeah. And like when every other clinic I've been a part of, they would they wouldn't start looking for somebody, seems like, until they desperately needed them, right?
Mhm.
So then you already have a staff that's overstretched and overworked, and then you're throwing these new people in and trying to train them on top of that overworked staff. And it just never ended well. So my goal's always been to start looking before I really need someone,
Yeah.
and then there's no stress. And then the practice always grows in response to what you do. Um, and I know if I worked more hours, I would fill them up with clients too. It's just a choice that I've made not to do that. The need is there.
Mhm.
So, but I don't want to overstretch myself and then feel like I have to scramble to find somebody. I want somebody who can come in, shadow, take their time, learn the ropes, get comfortable, um, and then take off and fill their schedule and get their own clients, and just when they're ready for that, because then they're going to have the confidence to do that, and confidence attracts patients.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, I've never liked how that's been in the veterinary field. So
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely use that part. And we're going to segue a little bit into what your experience has been, because I'm sure that colors why you are doing your practice the way you're doing it. So
mhm.
I have a question for you. Um, what were you looking for when you found ACEs and when you found coaching?
Two very different things, strangely enough. So when I was looking for A.C.E.S, I was just looking for a way to add to my holistic arsenal in a way that was conducive with having children. And that was
Okay.
pretty much it, right? Like, so, and I knew chiropractic was kind of the thing I'd been missing. I'd done the herbal medicine and the acupuncture and the food therapy and all that stuff. And so chiropractic was kind of the last piece of the puzzle for me as far as what I was wanting to offer. And so I just wanted a program that was um, flexible. And so I didn't know a lot about it, like how it was different from the other programs and all that stuff. And then, another chiropractor, Dr. Matthews, told me about A.C.E.S. And so he referred me and looked into it. I talked to you on the phone, I think, and really connected with what you said. You kind of, planted some seeds in there about how you were different. And then I just took the leap. And so it wasn't until I got partway or had halfway through the program that perspective of mine really started to change. And I started to see how chiropractic wasn't just another tool in the arsenal, it was kind of the tool, and it needed to be the thing that I structured everything else around, for multiple reasons, for the financial, for the work life balance, but also for patient care. And so A.C.E.S kind of brought that all together for me. By the time I graduated, I knew that the direction I wanted my practice to go was to really have chiropractic as one of the cornerstones. And so that helped me really change my practice model. Whereas before, it was very confusing for clients to know what to ask for. It was very confusing for them to know what I offered and what their pet needed. We would get on the phone and I would give these 30-minute explanations of everything that I did and offered. And they'd be like, okie dokie, so now what? And that confusion leaked over into my website and everything else. And then after completing A.C.E.S and getting that focus, it was very easy to, through the coaching, to refocus my website and my message and clarify. And now, I mean, my technician, she learned our spiel in a day or two, because it was so simple. And she tells that to every new client. They know what to expect. It's just so streamlined now. And so then, I finished A.C.E.S, and then I realized, okay, I want this to be the focus, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to restructure my practice message to reflect where I want it to be. So that's when the coaching came in, and I was able to work with you to fine tune, clarify the messaging, clarify our key points, clarify our takeaway message for clients, clarify the website. And, as soon as the website was the biggest thing, as soon as I clarified that and simplified the website, that's when bookings just shot through the roof, and they haven't stopped since.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. It's been a cool journey, and it keeps getting better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
it
amazing.
and all of that goes right along with what you've said about how you want to hire. You want to hire in a very clear, specific way so that those people have a chance to grow into the practice
Mhm.
and put down roots and be a part of that practice. That's awesome.
Yeah. 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 I've
What
looked at quite a few
obstacles? Go ahead. You looked
I
at
looked
quite a
at quite
few
a few
holistic.
like holistic ads. I was kind of looking for just other holistic jobs at some point, just for fun mostly. And they all kind of gave me this sense of anxiety of like, what if I don't know enough? Like, because holistic's such a broad term, right? I mean, you can know so many things that could be considered holistic. And so that was another reason I really appreciated being able to have a really focused um, focal point for my practice. Like, you just need to know chiropractic. If you don't, I'll pay to get you there. And you just need to know some basic nutrition stuff. And then anything you want to add after that is what you are interested in. If you want to learn homeopathy and bring that in, great. If you want to learn physical therapy and bring that in, great. I would prefer a variety, and you don't have to duplicate me, but these two things, just start here and then branch
Uh-huh.
out after that. Yeah.
It sounds like you don't even have to have those two things. You just have to have the interest in those two
Oh,
things.
yeah. Yeah. And then we'll get you those two things.
Cool. Well, the next question is, what obstacle were you trying to overcome? But I think you've explained that. You wanted to overcome I'm trying to have this life that suits you and your family. And is that right?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That's always been my heart, is just to be a full-time mom. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, and the way things cost, it's just not possible. So I had to really come to terms with that in one sense and be like, okay, this is not the 1980s when my mom was raising us and things didn't cost hardly anything. And you could live on one military income, and that was enough, you know. Um, and so I had to come to terms with that and be like, okay, like, so then I need to figure something out that's gonna be good for our family and good for my heart too. And so being able to develop this practice in such a way where it's able to do that, um, has been such a blessing. And I'm just so thankful that it's been able to work out that way. Um, so yeah, it's possible. You just got to have the creativity. I think is you just got to have the imagination to be a problem solver. And how can I make this work for me, and how can I make this better, and think outside the box. Like, how could this will probably look different. I know my practice looks different than most of the vet practices out there, and that's okay. And if you come up with something weird, maybe go with it and just see what it leads to. So yeah.
Oh, cool. And what tell me, so what action did you take to, in order to work with me and with A.C.E.S? What did you do?
So with A.C.E.S, so I talked to Dr. Matthews and he told me a little bit about the program. And then I think I talked to you on the phone and you told me about the program and I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was attractive the way you described it because you didn't just give me the facts like, well, you go through module 1 and then you come to Texas and then you do module 2. You actually talked more about how this was going to help me develop a thriving practice and how this was going to help my life. And you made it personal. And how it was going to help my patients too. So, I mean, you made it really practical. I don't remember exactly what you said, but that's the what I came away from the phone call feeling. And then I think I signed up pretty soon after that and just started diving into the modules.
Nice. Thank you. And then what change happened to your practice financially after you started working with us?
Oh, I used to have these numbers in my head. I know that, so by the time I came to module 3, either came or just finished module 3, I had paid off A.C.E.S tuition with just chiropractic appointments. So I remember that. And I know that even though I took a maternity leave last year from like October through the end of the year and into February, actually, my gross was still the same as the year prior when I think I worked pretty much the whole year. And then I just compared, it's funny, I just did this. This was not planned at all, whoever's listening. So I just sat down and I looked at reports for the last 6 months of this year versus last year. And, I saw like I booked 100 more appointments in that same 6-month period this year versus last year and saw like 54 more new clients in that same period. And the gross was significantly more too. I don't remember that number off the top of my head. And I'm still working the same hours. That's crazy. That's the crazy part, right? Like I'm not working more. I'm actually working less because I hired a technician and I hired a CPA and I hired like a copywriter and I hired a social media manager. Like I hired all these people and it doesn't seem like I'm spending any more money. Like it doesn't seem like that. I know I am, but it doesn't seem like I don't feel like I'm hemorrhaging money because I hired all these people. I feel we're actually making more money. So it's so crazy. It's so, you don't think it's going to work that way, but it really does.
That's great insight because there are people who are fearful that if I hire these people, how am I going to afford them? And it sounds like
Yeah.
it pays for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it does help. Like my husband is my practice manager. So he knows percentages of things. Like I asked him, should I hire this copywriter? And said, well, you should be spending about this much percentage of your gross on advertisements. So we figured it out. And, I had it in the budget, it was within that percentage to do it. So sometimes you don't realize that you have the capacity to afford this person. It's just so hard for us sometimes to let go of that hard-earned money, and
Mm-hmm.
but if you have some percentage guardrails on what's kind of typical, then do the math and you might be surprised that you really can afford to hire all these people to help you. And then your life just gets that much better.
Yeah. Percentage wise, like 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which, so yeah. So what did happen to you personally that over that period? Like, how did you change?
You broke
besides
up a
having
little
more
bit.
kids? Oh,
Can you
so
ask?
how did you change? That's okay. How did you change over that time?
Um,
You had more kids.
I had more kids. Yeah, I have three now. I feel like that by trusting pieces of my practice to other highly qualified people, it's given me the ability to build more margin into my life. I always talk to my tech. I'm like, because she'll tell me about how many phone calls she had and all these emails and all this stuff. And I'll be like, I don't know how I kept up with all that before you came along. And she's like, I don't know how you did either, because it's a full-time job for me just to keep up with client communication. And so now that I'm not doing that, I'm able to purposefully build margin into my life, which what that looks like practically is my kids get to go to parks. My kids get to go to the zoo. My kids get to go eat donuts with me in the park. My kids we get to go walk in the woods and we take drawing materials and just like draw things that we see. Like they get to have a childhood. They're not stuck playing in their room because mom's frantically on her computer trying to get notes ready for appointments later that day, or trying to answer the phone and telling them to be quiet because I'm trying to answer a phone call. I am fully present with them. And that is huge for me and huge for them too. So just having that, I've been able to focus more on my health, kind of slow down a bit, take care of, do some self-care stuff, recover from having three kids, just kind of rebuild my body a little bit, rebuild my mind and my spirit. Yeah, prioritize friendships, prioritize marriage. I mean, all the things that really matter. It's not about how much you work, it's about how much you spend the time with people that you love. So,
That's powerful. That's super powerful. Thank you. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that.
thank you for sure.